When this close to you.
Hi guys.
Hi.
All right, so
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. I know we're doing a bonus session today. We posted our episode on narcissism yesterday, which seemed to be a big hit with a lot of people.
There's a lot of those little fellers floating around out there.
There are. So, but we wanted to do a bonus live episode today because it's something that both of us have experienced.
Are experiencing,
yeah.
At this point in our lives.
And so we're talking about anxiety. So tell me because you really wanted to talk about this today. Tell me what's going on. What's going on, Shannon? Let me play therapist.
So I was in the shower kind of milling around, and then all of a sudden I was doing a dissertation. So I guess I feel very passionate about this topic because when people say that word, they almost say it like it's like, you're a problem. Like, oh, you're just anxious.
Right.
And the insinuation is that I want to be anxious.
Right.
And I think
that you're making it up.
Yeah, that I'm like choosing to go down. I could go down peace road, but I'd rather go down anxiety road instead. And I think, so what I want to do is a shout out to everybody, to doctors, nurses, mental health providers, people that are on the front lines with individuals that are going through anxiety, even teachers. You know, my daughter's at college. When I went to talk to somebody at her school, they said the number one issue that they deal with campus-wide, 52,000 students, number one issue, anxiety. Number one. They've got more meditations, more therapists, more therapy groups, mindfulness, yoga, exercise. It's all geared towards getting these kids off the ledge because they're also anxious. So
what do you think that is? Why?
Well, it's a pressure cooker environment. Anytime we're in an environment where it's a competitive environment, number one, it's competitive. We want to do our best. Number two, there's no schleps there. Like everybody's doing their best and they're super smart. Number three, where's mommy and daddy? I just left them 4, 6, 10 hours of plane ride away and I'm on my own. So I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my new environment. New environments cause anxiety. I'm competing with people that are better than me, right? They're not I'm not a big fish in a small pond anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of things, but as a 46-year-old, ooh, that's the first time I had to say that. I just turned that. God, I don't like that.
Happy belated birthday.
Ooh, that's a big number. As a 46-year-old woman sitting here today, I know that I've encountered significant anxiety in the last year due to hormones, due to physical situations, physical health. And so I have even more compassion. I think I've always been pretty compassionate. I've always dealt with a low level, thanks mom, of inherited anxiety. But I felt like I managed it really well. And then I got into a situation where health made my anxiety go up. And I had a cardiology appointment last week and I just wanted to kiss him because he looked at me and he said, you know, I hope you never let anybody ever tell you that you're just anxious. He said, when your heart races, it creates anxiety, and that is biochemical. So the thing about anxiety is it's the biochemistry is a racing heart, shortness of breath, tightness in your chest, and
so it feels like you're having a heart attack.
Feels like you're having a heart attack, and then the emotional is your brain is saying really scary things. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Most times we don't know, but this I will promise you to just be able to stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop it, Suzanne.
You can't. I mean, when you're in that, and I've been in that, when you're drowning in your crazy thoughts, like trying to get out of that is so difficult. So difficult. Right. Why is it so difficult?
Because the anxiety, this little fluffy word that we throw around, the anxiety is biochemical. It increases your heart rate. It tightens your chest. It shortens your breathing. And your brain, the chemicals that flood your system, tell your brain to focus on the worst case scenarios. It's just like depression. Depression will take someone like me and you who are pretty bubbly most times, and it'll say things like, I just hope I cross the center line and run right into a car. I don't really want to be here anymore. And then we'll be like, what? But your brain will say stuff like that. So the same brain that sends you a negative message when you have a depression is the anxious brain will send you well, you know, it could be this.
Yeah.
It could be a heart attack.
Yeah.
It could be menopause, or it could be a stroke. And then you start spinning.
I remember when I was pregnant, and this goes to the hormones, that I was beside myself, and I could not get myself out of it. And I had trouble sleeping. I had to go to the doctor to get something to sleep. Yeah. They prescribed me Ambien when I was pregnant because I could not sleep and I was so anxious. But that goes back to the hormones.
Right.
So is it worse for women? Do women suffer from it more?
I see so much
more
more
anxiety. Or are we just more open about it,
You know, I could say both, but I can tell you that damn M word, menopause. I see so many people who have been fine. So that's the other thing. My other shout out to you doctors and nurses and people that are like, she's so anxious. If you're 35 and saying that, be nice.
Yeah.
Because when you're 55, I have so many people in my life that are 55 that are in these panic attack cycles. Mm-hmm. They've never had panic in their whole life. They don't worry about anything. But now because of the hormone shift, they're in panic, they're in anxiety, and they're really struggling. And of course, they're trying to talk to people. People are saying, you just need to stop thinking about that.
Yeah.
And you need. Why would you be so worried? Your heart's fine. Why are you worried about a heart attack?
Right.
I can't help it. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's a lot of women. But
Jessica,
men too.
And Jessica says, I suffer from really bad anxiety so much that it's turned into agoraphobia. It's the worst. What's agoraphobia? Where you can't go outside?
Yes, Jessica, my heart breaks for you. Yes, because what happens is everything outside is a stimulus of driving my car. If you're anxious, you're pretty scared to go battle the amount of cars that are out there right now in season. So dealing with cars, going to malls that are crowded, going to the grocery store, there's tons of people. So then the anxiety translates to everything and it kind of takes over. And so, definitely, well, we're going to talk, Jessica, about cures. We'll get there. Mm-hmm. But this is what it can turn into. Mm-hmm. If your head gets to run away with you, which is what anxiety will do, it will run away with you and it will take you from, I'm a little nervous to get in my car to, I'm going to have a 12-car pileup on I-95, I can't.
Yeah.
And it will feel believable.
Because I feel there's such a wide range with this. Like for me, anxiety feels like too much of a heavy word. But for some people, anxiety it doesn't even touch the surface as far as describing what they have to go through.
For Jessica.
For Jessica, absolutely.
She's saying she hasn't been to Walmart in 3 years. She can't drive at all. I mean, it can be... I had an agoraphobic grandmother, so it runs in my genes. She did not leave. Great-grandmother, I believe. Sorry, Grandma. My grandmother was the opposite as a result of her mother. Right. My grandmother was like, get out of my way. But because she grew up with a woman who couldn't leave the house, you know what I mean? So it's very real. And it is passed on generationally as well. Wow. It's very genetic.
So how do you, so what are some of the tools you can use? Because there's no magic bullet. I mean, I think that everyone's looking for, this magic pill that you're going to take. And, I know when I started having some issues and anxiety and went to see a therapist, I really did not want to go on medication. I really just wanted to see if I could try and solve it, through diet and exercise.
Right.
But I think it depends on how severe your case is.
So before we jump there, which I want to get there, but I do want to, we would say difference between men and women. I really do want to shout out to the men because I think that women suffer more from this, but men do too. And I just want to shout out to the men. Mm-hmm. When a man has a heart attack, it is so unraveling that they were fine 1 minute and not the next. Mm-hmm. When they do open heart surgery on a man, almost guarantee they're going to go into depression after. So for men, health issues really create a lot of anxiety. Some of that retiring, midlife stuff, I mean, that might feel laughable, but to go from losing your position of who you are in the world to not knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. So men suffer from this too. Excuse me. So just want to shout out to them that, please listen to our show and the advice that we give will be helpful as well. So first things first, most of us don't want to do medication. We're terrified of it. And I got to be honest, as a therapist, the anti-anxiety medications scare the crap out of me because some of them, like benzos, are really addictive. So I really I understand that's a healthy fear.
And I feel like I know this is maybe not accurate, but I've always felt like maybe they would change my personality and kind of, numb me to the point where I wouldn't be the bubbly Suzanne that I normally am, And
I don't see that so much with people that are highly anxious. Some people do very well on benzos and they take the same amount. And so please don't misunderstand me. If you're on a benzo and it's working for you, great. I just understand how people go from nothing to being on a benzo scares them to death. So I want to honor those people. But really, I don't see people changing personalities because anxiety changes your personality so much. You're not bubbly when you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
So it takes that and it quiets it. But there's a new, and I am not a doctor, but I have somebody in my world that's amazing, and she's a nurse practitioner. And I know that one of the regimens that she uses lately is blood pressure medication. And it's really effective because think about it. I suffer from high blood pressure. So when you have high blood pressure, then your heart races, it can create the anxious feeling. And then of course, once you're in the anxious feeling, then your thoughts do say, what's wrong with me? What's going on? And then you do get that thought, the kinds of anxious thoughts. So a blood pressure med reduces your blood pressure, brings down your heart rate, which of course makes you feel calmer, so it can quiet that spin. And so that's what, I know this certain doctor is using for a lot of her anxious patients, and they're loving it because they can take it at night or whatever before bed, or they can take a little half tablet if they start to feel anxious, and it just drops everything down to normal levels, which then makes them able to use their cognitions to get the rest of things down. So medication is a very real option. Please, it's none of my business, Jessica. I don't know what your regimen has been. You may have tried everything, but if you are a person who's so afraid of medication.
She says she's on metoprolol for blood pressure, heart rate, which helps a lot. Okay, so that's what you're saying.
Yes, so exactly. Yeah. So definitely don't shy away from medications. The other thing, Jessica, and again, I am not a doctor, but if you're still having the agoraphobia and the blood pressure med is working a little bit, you might actually consider seeing a psychiatrist, someone who's an expert in this, and they might pair it with an antidepressant / anti-anxiety medication, or there's Lexapro that's an antidepressant, but it also lowers anxiety. And I have found people that didn't want to leave the house, dropped out of college, couldn't function in the world, would go on a Lexapro or one of those kinds of medications, and they're back in college, in another state. And I'm saying, what? Wow. So some of these medications are powerful, and they give people back their lives. Yes. So first line of defense, if you are somebody who cannot function, please see a good psychiatrist, psychiatric nurse practitioner. Your doctor, your OBGYN might even be able to do this with you, but please look at that as a line of defense. The second thing is the route that you've taken. I know a lot of anxious people in my life, they swear by exercise, swear by it.
I mean, I think it's different for everybody, but for me, it is the only thing that can get me out of that feeling like I'm drowning in these thoughts. I mean, if I could just go to yoga, or if I get a really good sweat in, I mean, it's amazing how it totally takes me down.
Well, it's chemicals.
Yeah.
You're taking a pill, you're going to an hour and a half of high impact aerobics, your brain chemistry is releasing chemicals, and it's the chemicals that are needed to reduce your anxiety. Yeah.
So and I'm not the type of person that can sit there and and meditate. If I'm having if I'm in a crazy place, and try to meditate, I can't my brain won't go there. Yeah. My brain cannot quiet, even with meditation. I have to totally tire out my body, and then I can meditate and try to get myself in a good space.
And thank you for saying that, because again, so many people are like, "We stop thinking that." You can't. When you're in it, you can't. So that's why medication is a great thing, because you can take it the minute you put it in your mouth, things shift. Number 2, high impact exercise and or yoga, if yoga works for you.
Wine. Just kidding.
That's, if you have a severe anxiety disorder, don't do wine every day, because then you have alcoholism too.
Don't listen to me, just so you know. But do go to
chocolate. Meditation, but again, if you're really out of your skull,
the meditation doesn't work for me.
You know what works for me? I mean, it sounds crazy, but comedy.
Oh, okay.
We're in the age today where we can put on Saturday Night Live repeats. We can go and watch Dave Chappelle. I've recently gotten Netflix. I'm only 10 years behind the times, but it's so cool. We'll just turn on Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock or somebody who's funny, and I can sit right, and that takes my head on a different journey, and it's usually positive and funny, and laughter also creates endorphins in your brain. There's studies on that. So that meditation.
And getting outside. Like, I feel like, you know, when you're in that crazy place or you're in a dark place, if you can just, you know, go out and take a walk or go to the beach, like just hop in your car, go to the beach and just walk along the beach, it really does kind of help get you out of that space.
Definitely. And the biggest thing that I used when I had kind of mild anxiety, and now that I've gotten older, I've realized, oh, it was mild. Because this
now
is far
crazy.
worse. Right. So if you have mild anxiety or you see yourself heading down anxious road, cognitive behavioral therapy is very, very helpful, where you, for example, I use history as a barometer. Like if I'm having a spin about finances, oh, I'm going to lose this or I'm not going to be able. Well, when has that ever happened before?
Right.
Never. Okay. You're probably going to be okay. That kind of thing.
Right.
Hannah Thompson. Hi, sweetheart. Spending time with friends, she's saying, really helps. Like distracting yourself, because it's true, distracting your brain. That's where the TV can help me.
Yeah, and Jessica says she watches sermons online. It keeps me calm down. Literally watch sermons to just be able to sleep every night. Oh.
Absolutely. Anything that's going to change. So basically she's doing exactly what I'm saying. Cognitive therapy is telling your head a different message.
Right.
But when you can see that you're starting to go down that path, telling yourself history, using history as a barometer, just reassuring statements, you know, honoring that you have the anxiety and kind of like imagining, because one thing that anxious people do is they fight it. Oh God, I'm getting anxious. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to get anxious. Oh my God, I'm gonna have a panic attack. Oh my God. And that just sets off their brain.
Right.
So one of the things we teach is aligning with it. Like, oh, here comes my anxiety. Right. Yep, does this about every day, about 9 a.m. Here it comes. Here it comes. It's fine. It'll pass. It's not going to kill me. It's going to come, and then I'm going to put it on a cloud, and it'll be here about 15 minutes, and then
well, that's basically meditating, because that's what they tell you to do with your thoughts. You know, to not fight them or just kind of let them pass, like the ticker on Wall Street. It just goes on by, you know, and you look at it, you recognize it, and you just let it pass.
Yes, so aligning with it, owning it, embracing it, and then letting it go. What we resist persists. So don't fight it. And then, you know, if you can get into a place of just positive affirmation, so whatever the negative thought is, like money is always a trigger for me. It's just been that way my whole life, because when you grow up without money, then there's always the fear that you're not going to have money. So I'll get a, you know, bill time or whatever. It's like, oh, I don't have enough. And then I try to combat it with, no, you always have enough.
Right.
It always works out. It always works out. Just positive affirmations that can kind of counteract that awfulizing. So when your brain starts awfulizing, you want to hit it back with something positive.
Does diet have anything to do? Oops, sorry. Does diet? I'm trying to go through these comments. Sorry. Why does this keep doing this?
Because there's no more.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Moving this around. Does diet?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, because I feel like diet can really, like when I'm eating a lot of crap, like my anxiety just goes through the roof. Or if I'm drinking too much.
Well, I can challenge anybody out there, everybody today, Google it, folks. Sugar will put you over the edge. Sugar increases
It's like kids.
anxiety.
You see kids when they get... Yeah.
Well, because think about it. Sugar increases your heart rate. Sugar gives you an energy bolt. So it's going to increase your heart rate. It's going to intensify everything. That increases anxiety. So I've talked to people who've said, you know, when they're in their anxiety, they can't eat sugar at all. And if they stay away from sugar and exercise, they have no anxiety during those hormonal times. So definitely sugar. Definitely if you have allergies, you know, doing the thing that you're allergic to, dairy for some people. But, you know, try it out. For some people, being gluten-free makes a huge difference. But definitely diet is critical. And, of course, what is wine?
Sugar.
Yeah. So sugar, chocolate, alcohol is full of sugar.
Yeah. And the other...
Caffeine.
Oh. Really?
The most anxious people in the world are walking around going, I don't know why I'm so anxious. I just had a Red Bull and I had 2 coffees. And caffeine will jack you through the roof. It increases your heart rate. It increases everything. So you will be, for anxious people, no caffeine. Don't tell me it will kill you. I haven't had it for a year. I want to kill people some days. But
you know, well, my co-anchor, Eric Roby, he only does 1 cup a day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because he would,
He was getting crazy
he
on
was getting
it.
a little crazy, he said,
Yeah.
and it's made a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge.
Instead of 5 cups, just 1 cup,
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something crazy, and everybody's going to argue with me, but here's the deal. Well, here's what you do when you do sugar and caffeine. You wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired, right?
Yeah.
So you have your coffee with your hazelnuts. You've got your sugar jolt and your caffeine.
And then you
feel,
grab a bagel,
right,
which is more sugar.
More sugar. And you feel like, okay, I can do the day. You feel a little jolt and you feel good. What happens around 1, 2 o'clock? After lunch, you're like, oh my God,
I need a
dying.
nap. Yeah.
I need another coffee. You go, you get your Coca-Cola, you get your coffee, you pair your sugar and your caffeine. You feel great. 4 o'clock, I cannot get to 5 o'clock. You're doing this all day.
Right.
Guess what, folks? When I wake up and I do my water and my food and whatever, the only difference in my day is when my blood sugar is low and I need food.
Right.
There are no other dips, really.
Right.
When my body is processing my food, maybe at 2 o'clock, like everybody kind of feels a little like, ooh, I feel a little tired because my body's processing a big lunch. But there are no dips.
Yeah.
Right?
I really believe.
So you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah. I really believe that people don't log me a little late. Hi, Ashley. I really believe that people don't put enough emphasis on food, on what they eat.
The chemicals change everything.
It changes
the caffeine,
everything. It changes
the
your
sugar, all of it.
It changes everything. It changes your mood.
Yeah.
It changes your outlook on things. It changes your anxiety.
Exactly.
I mean, it really does.
It makes a huge difference. And I owe Ashley an apology because I should have texted you and told you that we were going live. So I'm glad that you just jumped on here.
If I had your number, Ashley, I would have texted you.
She's better at this than I am. So, but yeah, so caffeine puts you on the roller coaster and you're chasing this thing all day long. What I want people to understand, because not many people are going to just go off because it's so hard to go off. What I want you to understand, having been off for over a year, I don't have lulls. I don't have the dips. And if I didn't get, it's very simple. If I didn't get some good sleep last night, I'm going to have a rougher day staying awake. But I'm telling you, if I get that 8 or 7 hours or whatever, most days I'm pretty even, and I know that I need to eat because I start to dip a little bit, and that's just my blood sugar getting a little low. And then once I stabilize my blood sugar, I'm fine all day long. A normal, reasonable amount of time from 6:30 in the morning till probably 10 o'clock at night. Now at 10 o'clock at night, I'm kind of tired. That's where we push ourselves, right? We're all like drinking Red Bulls at 10 so we can stay up even later. If you're listening to your body, though, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. is like pretty good amount of time to be awake.
Yeah.
So starting to wind down at that time is probably healthy. But you will, the thing about it is you will not crave it either. So I know you feel like, I'm going to get the worst headache. It's all temporary. You will not, I don't crave it anymore. I would love hazelnut. There's certain sugary things that I miss, but I don't crave it. I don't think about it most days. I really have to be honest.
What's something else that I do that really makes a huge difference in my anxiety is to journal. I mean, I journal a lot, but if you're having one of those crazy moments where you are in, full on panic mode and you're really, your fear is at a really high level, just get a piece of paper and write down and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And just let yourself write. Like, don't edit yourself. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, just stuff will pop up that you'll be like, I'm afraid of that. I mean, it does. And you look back at it and it helps you so much to see it on paper. And it has this sort of opposite effect that it will kind of calm your mind a little bit, because you're writing it down on paper and you're looking at it going, I can't even believe that that's something that I'm afraid of. But it really is an eye-opener, and it lets you kind of take a step back and say, you know what, I'm okay.
Well, you know what you're doing, Suzanne, which is so cool, is you're activating your left brain. So left brain is logic, making sense of things and detail and that kind of thing. Your right brain is creativity. Your right brain is emotion. So what happens is when you're in that anxiety and panic, you're in that right brain, which is wonderful, but it's not at that moment because you're creating these horrible scenarios.
Yes, and the scenarios are
events,
crazy.
Right? Crazy. So you're in your right brain. And so one of the things that there's a lot of hype out there right now about kind of funny anxious story that I'll share in a second, but there's a lot of hype about left brain and right brain and being able to move between them. So what I love what you just said is, what you said is, when you're over here in their emotions and everything's like big picture and nothing's detailed, nothing's logic, you pull out a pen and paper, you activate your left brain. You're making a list of things. Your left brain's like, let's look at this logically. And then you're able to look at it with a new pair of eyes. What? I'm scared of what?
Right.
That's crazy. Yeah. Which you need that logic to pull you out of some of that anxiety. And so there's a book called, Stroke of Insight, My Stroke of Insight. There's a woman that is, she does a TED Talk on it. She has a book on it. I have not been able to witness or read either because I am anxious. And in her talk, I will warn you, she is a neurologist. She is a doctor who had a stroke. And she witnessed her stroke through her doctor eyes the whole time.
Wow.
And then she wrote about the experience, because when she had a stroke, she couldn't, her left brain was damaged. She had to live in her right brain, in her creativity and her emotions. And as a doctor, most doctors are very logical.
Very left brain.
So she writes this, I'm hearing, it's an incredible book about how to move between the two sides. So the point is so funny. I watched a couple minutes of the video and I was so anxious because stroke is scary when you have high blood pressure. That's something that can be scary to you. We have somebody at the studio that had that, right? And so I'm highlighted by that, and I'm like, it's real. It happens to people and wonderful people.
Yeah.
So it's really scary. So my heart rate doubled in the first 3 minutes of the video. I had to turn it off and look at meditation. But this right-left brain thing is something that's really powerful. So I love that you highlighted that. Drinking water, I'm told, will get you out of an emotional state. Doing something tangible and logical. So maybe even to go do your laundry when you're feeling anxious. Go into your garage and start moving stuff and start organizing, because the left brain is not where that anxiety is going to live. It's going to live in the right brain. Right. So that is a great insight. And so be careful if you're really, really anxious and you're watching that Stroke of Insight. But apparently there's a book, and maybe you can skip those first scary chapters and then read about the left and the right brain. It'd be helpful.
Yeah. Ashley says, such a helpful topic. Meditation has been the answer for me. Daily calm.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about meditation. Jill says, I get very anxious because of the weather, thunderstorms, and driving in them.
Okay.
Interesting.
So little side note that we've talked about in many of the videos, but everybody that knows me knows that I am the biggest fan of EMDR. So what you're describing, Jill, is that you're probably having like anxiety connected to a trauma. Maybe if you've ever been in a car accident, or thunderstorms trigger your, something traumatic, or somebody who was in an accident.
Yeah.
So please know that EMDR is a great option, because in 1 or 2 sessions you can remove whatever traumatic event is making you afraid to drive. Because I had an accident in the rain, and so I was afraid, but I've had it removed with EMDR. I can drive all day long in the rain.
And EMDR is almost like hypnosis a little bit, sort of?
I mean, it's along that strand. It's nothing to be scary of. It's nothing, it's all just.
But it's a little more intense than talk therapy.
Yeah, it's talk therapy, but it's adding eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. And basically, they can use their fingers or they can do tapping. But basically, it accesses the subconscious brain where the trauma exists. Maybe it was a car accident or a hurricane that you lived through. I saw that with, our girl at the news studio that had so much trauma from. So it's like when that stuff gets triggered, then you struggle. So the EMDR will remove those triggers so that the rain will come and you won't have a problem at all. You just be driving right along. So
Jill says, thank you.
She couldn't read that book either. Oh my gosh,
really?
I know.
Now I want to read it. What's the book called?
My Stroke of Insight.
Oh, okay.
And so in the first few chapters, she highlights her stroke and what she was feeling and what she was experiencing and all of that. And then she talks about what she learned about the right brain versus the left brain, and how we can use the left brain, just like you're saying, when you're anxious, to go do laundry or to do your journaling, and to activate your left brain will quiet your right brain. But more importantly, what she talks about is how to get out of that rigidity, how to get out of that legal side, and get into your feelings and looking at the rainbow and breathing and meditating and having that side of you. So you're so welcome, Joe.
Do you find that anxious people are more like, I feel, I have a hard time sitting still. I'm always having to be doing something. Yes. Is that sort of a side effect of anxiety, or is that just my craziness?
I think, you have caught to the fact that you're ADD.
Yes.
So I would change it. It's not ADD. You're ADHD. Attention Deficit hyperactive. And if you're hyperactive, your heart's a little faster, you move a little more, and you kind of have an engine going. And so ADHD and ADD people tend to be very anxious, especially because the engine's going. So when you sit, it's like the car wants to go.
Yeah, like, where are we going? Okay.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Let's do something.
There's something to be doing around here.
So it's harder to reel that in. And it's so funny if you read, like, I have a 20-question ADD assessment, and one of the things talks about anxiety is what happens when we are not attached to a person or a project. If you're ADHD. So if you're not involved in a task that's taking your brain, or you're not involved in a conversation with a person, you're going to feel that vibration. It's going to be anxiety.
Oh, wow. That's really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's when I get it.
Yeah.
When I'm not working on something.
Yeah. So that's so great that
Feeling...
you are gravitating towards yoga,
Yeah.
which is teaching you to quiet that motor a little bit, which you're never going to be able to quiet completely, which is fine. It's just brain chemistry. But the beach or swimming or yoga, these are some things that can quiet the engine a little bit, and that is your task if you're ADHD, is to learn to quiet that engine a little bit on your own.
Right.
You know.
Okay, well, that was a really eye-opening...
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Krista.
Hi, Krista. Krista's my Pilates teacher. Lori's my friend. So we're towards the tail end of our talk on anxiety here. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave a comment below.
So let's review for some of the people that have just joined us. So we all know what anxiety is. If you're a woman, you know what it is. But some of the, antidotes to it. One, don't be afraid of medication, and they are using
And I just want to say, you don't have to be on medication for the rest of your life.
No.
It might just get you through whatever trouble you're going through at that moment.
Well, the neat thing is, too, for a lot of these medications, you only take them when you're anxious.
Yeah.
Even the blood pressure meds, I know that they can be used, some of them. Like, again, I am not a doctor, so speak to a doctor. But, some medications, let me just say it that way, don't need to be sued. Some medications you can just take when you're anxious, and they get you over the hump, and then you move on, you do your exercise, your meditation, and you're fine. So please do check into medications, and blood pressure medications might be a venue that your doctor could use that may not be the same as a benzo, because a lot of people are afraid of benzos. Exercise changes your brain chemistry and reduces anxiety, and a lot of times if you exercise on Tuesday, you'll have the whole benefits the whole day Wednesday. So I see that happen a lot with people, and that's really neat.
I mean, like, I went to yoga this morning, and I feel so calm. Like, I feel, and I've had stuff going on all day long, and I feel completely calm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing what it does.
It changes. When I go for, anybody that knows me knows I'm not an exercise guru, but my thing, especially with the health issues this year, has been a 30-minute walk. I can't tell you, I benefit for 3 days when I do a 30-minute walk. My blood sugars are lower, my blood pressure is lower, I feel better, I feel calmer, my anxiety's in check. And then if I don't do it, on the third day, then I'm back in that cycle. So exercise is huge. Meditation is huge. If you can get your anxiety, if it's lower where you can focus on your cognitions, check what you're telling yourself. That's one of the first things that I used to do. When I start to feel anxious, I say, what did I just tell myself? And it usually was something awful, like, you're never gonna make any money, you're always gonna struggle, or something horrible. You go, well, of course I'm anxious right now. So do look at what you're telling yourself, because you need to not awfulize and send yourself scary thoughts. With that said, as we discussed, when you have high anxiety, you're going to have a difficulty changing those thoughts. So what I love that Suzanne brought up, change from your right brain, which is feelings, to your left brain. Go do something. Write journal. Go to the beach. Go to yoga. Switching your laundry around. Go, fold a pile of laundry, because you're going to use your logical brain for that, and it might quiet some of your anxiety.
Rachel wants to know the best therapy for someone with PTSD. She says EMDR did not work. She says it freaked me out more. Oh, gosh.
There is something, when I hear the word it freaked me out more, what my brain goes to as a therapist is there's probably trauma in your background, which a lot of us have trauma. So I've heard of something recently, I'm not an expert, but I just hear things in the field. I've heard of something recently called brain mapping, which is like, supposedly makes EMDR look like, don't waste your time. So brain mapping is supposed to be hugely effective and make a huge difference for anxiety. You'd have to research it. It's there are certain people that are trained in it. It probably, is a little more like biofeedback type thing, but it's not chemicals, it's none of that.
Right.
It's just kind of next level EMDR, but this is what I'm hearing lately, that for people that have a lot of trauma, it really is making a huge difference for them. It's kind of next level EMDR. So it's, in my opinion, it's newer. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm hearing that that's what people are having some success with. So, so check into it. And there's people in the Gardens area.
Yeah,
that
and
do
just so you know, EMDR is really supposed to freak you out. I mean, you're going to that. Not, I don't want to say freak you out, but you're going to a place that's that that you don't normally go to.
Well, that's a great point. Not everybody is the same EMDR specialist. So if you went to one EMDR specialist, that doesn't mean that the next person that does EMDR, you're going to have the same results, because I can tell you, the person that I go to is the best of the best, I think, and I don't think that I would have the same reaction with other people. And I think even my friends that are clinicians, when they're really honest, and I think they would be, some of them haven't done enough of it, don't do it enough. They're not experts. They've been trained. They love it. It's helpful, but it's not always as effective. Whereas my other friend, who's amazing, I send everybody to him because it's effective almost 100% of the time. This is what he does. He's done it for years. He's highly trained. He's highly effective.
Yeah, and that goes back to finding the right therapist, which was our episode last week.
Yes.
Rachel, I don't know if you want to take a look at that, but we kind of talk about, not every therapist is created equal, so it's possible you just didn't get the right fit for you.
But it does feel like trauma when somebody's like, it freaks me out. Well, no, I'm saying EMDR. Don't listen to Suzanne right now. She's like, EMDR was traumatizing. No.
It was traumatizing for me too, Rachel.
Right. Here's the thing I'll tell you though, here's the thing that's fascinating. If you do, anything, I bet your first therapy session was kind of exhausting and stressful. You know what I mean? Anything. What's traumatizing for me? The gym. Yoga.
I love the gym.
You know what I mean? Like the first time you go, oh my God, I can't move the next day. But after 6 weeks, I'm kind of loving it. Right. EMDR is a little like that. It takes a little bit of time. But man, my 5th and 6th session is like, whoa, life altering.
Yeah.
So try not to be so gun shy, or try somebody else who moves a little slower, or check into the brain mapping, because I can tell you, like you said, not everybody's created equal, and there's people that are really talented with this, but it does delve into your subconscious brain, so I'm sure scary stuff can come up. But again, when you're saying that, like, I don't experience it that way because it's taken away so fast when it comes up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's so funny that you say that, because when I go to yoga and people come to yoga for their first time and they're always like, oh my gosh, that was awful. And I'm like, no, you have to go back and you have to give it another try, or maybe it's not the right kind of yoga for you, So I think, yes, that's fair to say that maybe you didn't find the right specialist.
Hi, Justin.
Bye, Justin. What else did we talk about? Diet, exercise, possible medication.
Yeah, so diet was another thing Suzanne brought up that was excellent. Caffeine. Do not talk to me about your anxiety if you're drinking Red Bull. I'm sorry, I can't.
Right.
If you're drinking 4 cups of coffee a day, don't talk to me about your anxiety, because it's huge. It's huge. It's increasing your heart rate. You have to get off the caffeine, and you really need to take an honest look at the sugar if you are having a lot of anxiety.
I probably need to get off the caffeine. Rachel says she was. Yeah. All right. Santiago. What? I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm still in time for the couch auction. That's funny.
Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah, so definitely, so trauma, again, is what you're referring to. So trauma is going to definitely make a big difference in anxiety, and we're going to carry it with us. There's another book called The Body Keeps Score. That's a big thing right now. A lot of clinicians, and I think brain mapping is working along those lines. The Body Keeps Score. That's another great book, and it just talks about if you're getting beat up as a kid and you're going through a lot trauma-wise, your body keeps score. So then when you're an adult, you're going to be anxious, you might have depression, you're going to deal with all that stuff. So making that mind-body connection is really imperative.
All right, perfect. Make sure you leave your comments. You can also, if you have any ideas for our future episodes, make sure you leave us a message. And the biggest compliment is to share our videos and to like our videos. So thank you all very much, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here next week. Have a great day.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.